Now, this long-running argument between the government and Silicon Valley over privacy and security has hit a critical moment today when Apple CEO Tim Cook outright opposed a judge's order for the company to help the FBI unlock a phone belonging to San Bernardino shooter Syed Farook. In his briefing this afternoon, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest said this on the issue. Listen to this.
They are not asking Apple to redesign its product or to create a new backdoor to one of their products. They're simply asking for something that would have an impact on this one device.
One phone. That's what the administration and the Department of Justice says they only want access to. Not all of your iPhones, but Apple says, we give you the software key to that, you'll use it elsewhere. Is there a right answer, and will the government eventually force Apple to unlock the phone? With me now, Joe Cordero, the Cordero Group chairman and the former New Jersey law enforcement director who sides with law enforcement. He does not think our nation's safety should be dictated by profit motives. And Fox Business's MacDonald is here with some breaking news on the story. And Brainlink chief technology officer and IT expert Goel thinks the FBI is overreaching. And Raj, you are on the side right now of Apple. Make that case to an emotional America who watched 14 people get murdered by Syed Farook.
It's never happy discussing privacy or security when lives are at stake or people die. On the other hand, the argument the government's making, the FBI is making, just give us access to one little phone. They're actually asking Apple to invest a large amount of engineering resources, which I'm normally fine with. But once we have a backdoor into one iPhone, once Apple breaks the security on this one device, that gives the government, and not just our government, but the Russians, the Chinese, the Indian, the Brazilians, the right to demand Apple break backdoors into the iPhones around the world. So do we then end up losing Apple as a company, or do we end up destroying security worldwide?
You're saying if they give an inch, the government takes a mile. Joe, you're on the side of law enforcement. You see his point, but yet you side with law enforcement and say they better give up that encryption issue and that backdoor to law enforcement so they can figure out who this guy was calling, this terrorist, and maybe then nail other people who might have planned the same thing.
No, absolutely. Look, this all comes down to the safety and security of our children and American families. If we cannot protect them from acts of terrorism and local crime because we can't get access to a content of a cell phone of a terrorist, think about this. I mean, I understand both sides of the argument, but in this case, I think, what's being asked for pursuant to a warrant, what's being asked for is the specific content of a phone to suggest that Apple cannot reverse engineer what they created and not give law enforcement or government the key, but to allow its content to be revealed to law enforcement, to me, is an argument that extends beyond the instant case, and instant security goes into philosophical issues.
Liz, you've been talking to law enforcement that are close to this case, and they say, okay, we'll go with the one phone. That's what we want. We want access to one single phone.
Right. And here's what they're saying, essentially, that Syed Farook's iCloud account, which the FBI had access to, went dark beginning on October 19th. That was a month and a half before the shootings. He was hoarding weapons. He was hoarding bombs. So their concern is he wanted to kill, and his wife, kill and injure more people. They injured 22 people. They're also saying that the phone was owned by Syed Farook's employer, the county health department, and that prior to 2014, Apple was helping the FBI crack into iPhones to track down suspects alleged committing crimes, and that in bank terrorism financing, the banks play ball to track the terrorist accounts like of Osama bin Laden. So why, if the banks can't play ball, why can't Silicon Valley?
Raj,
that's their argument.
What about that? When post 9/11, they wanted to follow the money trail. Banks opened up their cases and said, all right, go ahead and look, because this is in the issue of national security.
So banks played ball, and so Apple's playing ball as well. Where they could help, they have helped in the past, and I assume in this case they will help as well. On the other hand, given what's going on globally, with China wanting backdoors, Russia wanting backdoors, Google was kicked out of China because Chinese hackers hacked Google. So Apple has been on the forefront of securing their product from all attackers, whether it's be criminals, nation states, or governments. And the moment they give the backdoor key to this one phone to the FBI, then they don't have a leg to stand on against the Chinese or the Russians.
But there's that, but there's also breaking the law. In a way, and Judge Napolitano made this case this morning, you'd be asking Apple to break the law, meaning hack into somebody's phone that didn't give approval to do so. Here is an Apple statement from Tim Cook, and among other things, he said the government is asking Apple to hack our own users and undermine decades of security advancements that protect our customers. And in essence, he said we can find no precedent. Can we put this up? There's the quote. And we can find no precedent for an American company being forced to expose its customers to a greater risk of attack. The precedent-setting issue is huge here when it comes to big privacy issues. They'll fight that, won't they?
Oh, absolutely. And look, this court case will linger for years. But on the balances, you know, we don't really know if there were other players responsible for the slaughter of 14 Americans. We don't know if they pose other threats. And so we need to get to the bottom of that. Look, just think about 9/11. Think about, you know, when we were being attacked, we didn't understand the full extent of it, what was the follow-on, and if we had information on a cell phone that we couldn't get to because Silicon Valley.
And I'll tell you something, Tim Cook's statement, the government says is off base because the phone was owned by the county public health department.
Who has approved going into that phone.
Correct.
Yeah, so why are we even talking about this?
That's what the issue is that the ownership is owned by the local government. The local government is saying to the FBI, you can go into the phone, and Apple can go into the phone, too. They've given their permission.
What do you think Apple does here, Raj? Do you think they cave at some point?
I hope they don't.
Okay.
Because then we're risking the entire U.S. tech economy. Because once Apple caves over, then the other companies have no leg to stand on.
Now you're talking about profits versus safety? Are you touching about that?
I'm talking about the American economy. Our primary export is technology. You know, you look at globally, what are the top 10 tech firms? More than half are American. And the moment we weaken encryption in this one case, for this one horrific case, how does that stop? How then do we prevent Azerbaijan or Russia or China or Brazil or India from asking the same thing? You know, they've already compromised RIM.
Joe? How do we do that?
You know, two things. First of all, we have a system of justice in place, right? I mean, there are
requests. Apple would say we're following the system of justice.
Well, you know, in the past, we've been able to secure, you know, a digital information based upon a warrant. Signed off by a judge where there's probable cause. The second thing is, I think ultimately Congress needs to act on this. For the safety and security of our country, Congress needs to take this debate out of the hands of profit-based companies and perhaps even law enforcement, right, that have a determined agenda and say, you know, let's balance that need and make the laws.
Okay. Which is what Judge Napolitano said this morning. Congress needs to move and have the laws catch up with the times, and the times are that terrorists are using technology to hurt us.
Yeah, that's true. And since 2014, Apple and Google have been selling their brand. They're staking their brand reputation on security and privacy. Prior to that, Apple, according to the FBI and Department of Justice, was allowing law enforcement to break into iPhones to chase down suspects.
But you can't have it both ways, everybody. Right. You don't want the Chinese hacking in, and then the government tells you got to make your system stronger and tighter and more encrypted.
And let's not forget that the phone is no longer just a phone. It's our camera. It's our wallet. Do you want the government, for good reasons or bad, breaking into your wallet?
I don't think they'd like my pictures. They're all fuzzy. I'm really bad at taking pictures. Great to see all of you, and it is a discussion that is absolutely not over and going to continue. Yeah. Joe Cordero, Raj, it's wonderful to have you. Liz MacDonald, great to have you.